especially on Shabbat.
So Leviticus, everyone loves this book the most, right? What I do want to do is, if possible, impart a little bit of extra love, a little bit of extra admiration for what Leviticus is. It doesn't seem like a tall order to me because I fell in love many years ago. But at the same time, it's hard to, like someone getting married, you do not catch the same love for their spouse that they have. You just don't do it. So having it and imparting it are two different things, but I'm hoping that we can do some of that today. So when we think about Vayikra, when we think about Leviticus, the first phrase in it, Vayikra, is "and he called." And there's no actual subject there. It's an implied subject because the subject of that comes from Exodus, when the cloud is speaking to Moses. And so the cloud speaks to Moses, and then he says, and then just to clarify, just in case, it says, "And the Lord said to Moses, saying," and this specifically, he called out to Moses. And so this voice from this cloud calls out to Moses, "Say to the children of Israel," say to them in the midst. So you're in a space where you hear this voice coming from this cloud, and it's going to Moses, and then proceeds 10 sets of instructions. 10. What's happening here? It's something. It's a replay of what was happening at Sinai. Moses goes up to Sinai. The 10 Commandments are spoken out loud, and all the people hear. And then there's a bit of a kerfuffle. You may know about that one. And then the replay comes. But the replay was in jeopardy because it could all have been lost. All of it. The entire value of the Exodus, fighting for the sake of freedom to worship. That freedom. This is worship. Leviticus is worship. But that freedom to worship, that thing that they fought for, that God fought for, that God delivered Israel for, that could have been lost. So what happens in the opening chapter of Leviticus? You hear God talk to Moses in front of everybody, saying the things he would have said at Sinai, but saying it all over again to make sure that everybody hears. This is not a story that's supposed to be restricted and taken into the upper clouds, into the spaces in heaven, that's supposed to be hidden away for some great revelation one day. It does come from there, but it is designed to be heard and overheard and overheard and overheard. You're supposed to be on the outside of the room, hearing and listening in. Leviticus is that story, and inside Leviticus you marry up the cultic, the sacrificial, the ritual life, but then you marry it with the ethical life. He says, "You are my image bearers. Love one another as you love yourself." In other words, to the extent that you are an image bearer, your neighbor's an image bearer. The ritual life gets implanted into the ethical. It's the only place in all of the ancient world where the ethical and the cultic touch. This is unique to Israel. And so in Leviticus, we get this overheard conversation where we find out that not only do we get to hear the most important conversation that happens, where heaven invades earth and is welcomed after a great battle. Not only do we hear that, but we also hear that we belong in that space. Our destiny is tied to it. Everything about this life, this life that we live with ethics, with doing good for one another, is tied to this ritual life. Not only that, but Leviticus spans out. It's the middle of the text. The next chapter, the next book over, Numbers, it tells you what to do in the outer spheres, right outside the inner core of the community. So in the Exodus, we see what it took to get to the place where we could hear God. In Leviticus, we hear the inner core message. In Numbers, we hear what happens in the outer. Genesis, we hear the beginning of all things. And in Deuteronomy, we hear, this is not a tough word for you. It has descended from heaven for your sake. It is easy. It is in your mouth. It is for you. And so what is the Torah like? What is God's word like? It's like being given a child. And you know the basics. You feed it, you clothe it, you love it. But you don't know anything at all. This kid's going to have an attitude. It's going to be rough. It's going to be really rough. But I'm going to love this kid anyway. And so you know nothing. You know everything, but you know nothing. We are given this word. We know what to do. We know everything, but we know nothing. We've begun to love, but we haven't even begun to fathom what it means to love. That kingdom that's given to us, that gospel that's given to us, that Torah that's given to us, is supposed to grow up until it consumes all of reality. And it's not far from us. It's in our very midst. So when I say, hey, can we love Leviticus a little bit more? Can we admire it a little bit more? I want us to feel the weight of what God felt in this moment. I'm finally going to give it back to them. We lost it in Eden, but we'll give it back and we'll set it up all over again. This became so important to God that it became generational. We'll talk about that at some point in the future, I'm sure, because I can't stop talking about Leviticus. But just to say, like, it is a love note. It is a story of feasting and celebration, of reuniting, of building back. And without Leviticus, there would be no balance to the Torah. Without Leviticus, there is no purity to cling to. There is no refinement. There is no hope. The hope of David is tied tightly to Leviticus. And what I would say, just personally, the love of David is tied tightly to Leviticus as well. Shabbat shalom.